listeners this important point. The iPhone app is free at Infowars.com. Okay, it's absolutely free. And if you have an iPhone, it's very easy. You just download our app. It's free at Infowars.com. I guess there's some other people selling apps we just learned of I didn't even know about. That's separate from us. Ours is free. People selling them in our name. I've got to stop that because I just can't let people, you know, take our name and use it and do stuff and then claim they're us later. We've had that happen over and over again. It's free. Just like you can watch my films for free online or get the DVDs and make copies of them. We hope you get a PrisonPlanet.tv membership to see it first and in higher quality and to download it and use it. We hope you buy the DVDs, but that's not the mission. The mission is, yes, to fund our operation, but funding the operation is only the launch pad to battle the globalist and shadow the left-right paradigm and warn the people. Going back to Wayne Madsen. Wayne, I mean, there's so much to cover here, so much going on, so much happening. What would you say the state is of the U.S., Israel, and England that are all allied together with the EU? Because all over the world, resistance is mounting to the fact that our nations have been captured and are being used as engines of tyranny. And you talked about how all over the world, people are now recognizing this new equivalent to the former Soviet tyranny, the evil empire. The people in America are waking up. Both political parties' approval ratings are plunging. And so the system is going to strike back. How are they doing that? With the new cybersecurity system, I guess, because I've read the cybersecurity bill in the House that passed. The Senate's even worse. I mean, I can't believe what's in this. I'm going to be covering it more next hour. I know you know about it, but I don't think people realize that Microsoft is building all these cybersecurity centers being paid by the federal government openly to censor. Bill Gates is saying it's good. Time Magazine, Newsweek, the British papers, New York Times saying you're going to have an internet ID to get online, biometric scan. All IT facilities, even down to people that serve 100 customers or more, that's the most tiny ISP, will have to put government monitoring software openly snooping and that runs your system so they can ban any websites they want. Now InfoWars and Prison Planet, along with WikiLeaks and Electronic Frontiers Foundation, are suddenly getting banned by ISPs from New Zealand to Italy. I mean, they're moving, sir.
Absolutely, and you know, you couple, I mean, I spent a long time in computer security, and there's a lot of reasons to have a lot of countermeasures in place, but what we're seeing here is something much more than that. We have the National Security Agency cutting a deal with Google. They've already had deals with Motorola, with Intel, with Microsoft. This is basically building intelligence inside, to paraphrase the old Intel slogan, Intel inside. And that's what we're going to see. And then you couple these initiatives like the cybersecurity bill with Cass Sunstein, who's the head of the White House Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs, who basically has come out and said it's the job of the government to basically break the back of conspiracy. He uses the word conspiracy theorists. He wrote a book called Infotopia, where he talks about the danger of people who don't engage in the groupthink being pushed by the corporate media. And I think when you have Sunstein, who, by the way, I hear if there may be 2 vacancies on the court soon, the Supreme Court. Stevens may be leaving, as well as Ginsburg, and he may be on the short list, from what I'm hearing.
He was on the list last time with Sotomayor.
Right, and this is a nightmare to have a guy like that, you know, basically preaching censorship and then infiltrating groups that they don't agree with. This is right out of COINTELPRO, 1960s and 70s. The FBI did. They infiltrated various anti-war groups, civil rights groups, and others. But you couple all these things together, and you know, you don't need a crystal ball to see where they're going. They have to control the Internet. The Internet was developed with DOD money, but it's turned out to be something that is helping to illuminate what's going on with these various power centers around the world, especially, you know, as I said, what the neocons are up to with their total disinformation campaign, going after world, you know, politicians who aren't falling in line. And I think it's something that everybody has to be concerned about. As a matter of fact, I've gone ahead and bought an old Underwood typewriter, because if they shut down the net, I'll have that, and I'll get an old mimeograph machine, and I'll just go back to the way it used to be and start putting out this information in leaflets, like was.
And by the way, Wayne, you're not joking. I put out a internet video this morning that's already gone viral, and in 10 minutes, 50 seconds, I break down everything that's happening. We show all the government documents and announcements. The White House says they're going to force us over to Internet 2. No one will have freedom of speech. We'll all have subdomains. They're going to incrementally shut down the old web. All these indexes of banned sites are going into the ISPs right now, and all the big newspapers are calling for censoring alternative media because we're kicking their butts. The truth is trumping their lies. They're all going bankrupt. So it's a perfect storm of government, corporations, and media that can't compete with the truth. They are really starting to drop the hammer, and I think it's important to get the word out now to scream bloody murder, because if we don't respond to them just test firing or beta testing or trial ballooning the idea of censoring the web, I mean, this is clearly a test right now. Do you agree?
Oh, I think they're floating all kinds of trial balloons here to see just how far they can go. And if you give them an inch, they're going to take 10,000 miles. And certainly, I pick up the Washington Post now, and it rivals Pravda during the days of the Soviet Union with its total disinformation. The Washington Post is owned by an education company. They no longer really are in the news business. They run they have Kaplan Business. It's a training and education company, and you can't believe anything they print about education issues, because they're trying to push the privatization of public education, and it doesn't stop there. Everything they write about, for example, they covered the Ukrainian election. They started out by saying Viktor Yanukovych, a one-time party boss who was accused of criminal activity. That's the first sentence. I mean, they don't say anything about who backs these neocons in these various countries, like Yushchenko, who did not win this election. He wanted to force Ukraine to join NATO, and the other candidates. You don't get anything about Yushchenko, who was put in office by massive amounts of money from George Soros. You don't see that. So it's very biased, the Washington Post. It's not a liberal paper. It's an establishment paper. It's an elite newspaper.
Let's shift gears. I want to get into the underwear bomber. I know the audience knows this, but the general public, it's been in ABC News, Detroit News, but buried in the articles. This has now been out for a week and a half. Oh, yeah, it's true. There was a sharp-dressed man. The State Department was told by U.S. intelligence to let him in because they didn't want to tip off al-Qaeda. And, yeah, there was a second man on the plane that did have a bomb, and Kurt Haskell did tell the truth. But we're not going to talk about that. I mean, this is another false flag, another setup.
Undoubtedly, it was a false flag, and we got information that he flew with a one-way ticket. Not true. It was round trip. They changed it. He was supposed to fly back to Accra, Ghana, where that ticket was originally purchased with cash. They changed it so he would fly back to Lagos, Nigeria. So we got all this disinformation about Muttalib. And now we hear he's cooperating with U.S. intelligence to turning over. It sounds like he's being debriefed more than anything else, that he was an agent of influence who was used, and now whatever he's talking about, it sounds like a typical intelligence agent debriefing as far as I'm concerned, and I think it was a false flag. And of course, Chertoff was out there saying, "Oh, we got to get these scanners in," even though he's got a financial interest in some of the companies that are pushing these body scanners.
And in the debriefing, he comes out and says al-Qaeda will hit the next 3 to 6 months, devastating, exactly what they wanted to hear. And then they run out, and they have all the intelligence chiefs before Congress last week and said, we will be hit. And notice this all kicks off right as they massed forces in Yemen, just like they massed forces in and around Afghanistan right before 9/11. And again, it's hidden in plain view and in a few major newspapers and publications, but just buried in the article. Okay, Mr. Kennedy, the head of the subdivision of the State Department, says they were ordered by the CIA to let him get in, even though he didn't have a visa. And, yeah, somebody got him through security and got him on board the plane. I mean, who's a sharp-dressed man that can lead you up through security, past the body scanners, which that airport had, that's on record, and get him on the plane? Only high-level security can do that. And they admit they helped him get on. They just don't say they were the sharp-dressed man. They deny the sharp-dressed man. Now they admit it. But they say, we're not worried about that. I mean, how obvious? And then his dad knows they're setting him up, goes and says he's going to attack you, and nothing's done. But meanwhile, women are having their breasts groped at the airports.